7, my book, You Deserve More. Chapter 7 is entitled Unseen Consciousness. And so let me begin by saying that the Creator, who many of us call God, is invisible or seemingly hidden from our senses, that is, beyond sensory perception. So then, what do we call our universe, life, and our planet? Can we infer that our universe, life, and our planet are visible manifestations of our Creator? If it is true that creation is an emanation of divine consciousness, an emanation of our Creator, then is it not true that divine consciousness is everything? All that we perceive, as well as the imperceptible, are emanations of divine consciousness, making divine consciousness the source of creation. Therefore, creation is all and everything. It is infinite, having no boundaries or limitations. Human consciousness, that is, the human mind, is a reflection of the divine mind, meaning that our minds serve as an example of divine consciousness. Thus, via the power of imagination, human beings can explore, experience, and be like God, that is, present in all times and places. Everything exists within the divine mind, so that God's mind is infinitely maintaining and creating forms of life or life forms throughout the cosmos. The human mind operates in much the same way, as it is designed to think, and its thoughts are continuous and without restrictions or limitations. Thoughts are invisible, and therefore they are portals to invisible realms. Invisible realms include the astral plane, the Duat, the Bardo, the Samandizi, and what we refer to as heaven, the realm we call heaven. These realms represent the home of our ancestors, spirits, and deities, entities that abide in the form of subtle energy, a higher vibrating form of life. Human beings are the meeting place of spirit and matter, allowing them to experience life in this physical realm while interacting with higher realms of consciousness through thoughts and imagination, prayer, and meditation. The human mind, as the image of God's mind, is immortal, eternal, divine, and free. The human soul or mind is perfectly at home in higher realms of life. However, upon incarnating into the physical body, that sense of home is upset. Over 36,000 years ago, Tahuti stated, and I quote, "I have seen a vision of souls about to be shut up in bodies. Some wailed and moaned. Some struggled against their doom like noble beasts caught by crafty hunters and dragged away from their homes in the wild. One shrieked and looking up and down exclaimed, 'O heaven, sure of being, bright shining stars, and unfailing sun and moon, light and life breath of the one, all you that share our home, how cruel it is that we are being torn away from such celestial splendor. We are to be expelled from this holy atmosphere and from the blissful life we live here, to be imprisoned in a mean and sorry place. What hard necessities wait for us? What hateful things will we have to do to meet the needs of a body that will quickly perish? Our eyes will see little, and only through the fluid of these orbs, the fluid that these orbs contain. And when we see our vast heavenly home contracted to the size as small as an eye, our sorrow will never cease. We shall not even see clearly, for we have been condemned to darkness. And when we hear our brothers and sisters blowing in the wind, we shall grieve that we are no longer breathing in unison with them. End quote. And so, incarnation is a process whereby the spirit is sequestered in matter, meaning that the spirit is entombed in a physical body that imposes a limited sense of awareness and interaction with higher forms of life, higher forms of consciousness. For the spirit to see beyond the limitations of the body, the spirit must engage with unseen consciousness. Think of it this way: everything is a manifestation of divine energy, of which the physical realm is one end. The other end is the non physical realm, which consists of subtle energy and higher vibrating energy. Between the two poles or the two ends, energy fluctuates. The energy fluctuations represent polarity, which can be described as pushing and pulling. The pushing and pulling take place, but there is no breakage, there is no division, meaning that unity and oneness are maintained throughout creation, throughout the universe. Take, for example, the human soul. It is an emanation or personification of one soul, that being the soul of the cosmos. The primordial soul is the source of all souls, one in essence, one in nature, yet manifesting in countless forms. Our souls are filled with information, memories, and experience from past lives. We need only be taught more about ourselves. The world we perceive with our senses is a small part of creation, almost nothing, meaning that the invisible universe is our true home. We can interact with the invisible universe, or to say it another way, we can transcend this physical realm. Rituals, as well as our thoughts, our prayers, imaginations, and meditations, they are portals that allow us to travel beyond time and space. By gaining control over our minds, we can tap into willpower, which is a product of life force energy. By way of sheer willpower, we can surrender individuality, subordinate our senses to the mind, and become one with the mind of the cosmos, thereby discovering that there's only one mind wherein everything exists. We can achieve union with the primordial mind. We can discover that our minds are not limited to our physical bodies, but that our minds are one with all that exists, since all that exists is a projection from the mind of our Creator. Living in union with our Creator dispels the fear and illusion of dying and death. Our bodies are shackled to decay. They are conscious corpses, portable tombs, and caskets that have been manipulated to corrupt and bind the soul to death. The body is not the master of the soul. No, it's an illusion. How can something that changes, that dissolves into the earth, have dominion over consciousness? It is not possible. When we are born into the physical realm, it is not the beginning of life. No, it is the incarnation of souls into physical bodies, which Tahuti refers to as the advent of individual awareness. When our bodies give out, it is not death that overtakes us. No, it is the end of individual awareness, thereby allowing us to change into another state. Upon the dissolution of the body, the mind, which is divine by nature, is freed from all containment. And once free from its tomb of flesh, it transforms into a body of light and ascends to a higher realm of consciousness, to a higher realm of life. This understanding of life predates the Bible as well as the dogma and doctrines that govern the existence of mainstream religions. Standing armies, swords, bullets, bombs, and terror propagated a modern religion to the masses. Europeans waged war on the known world, and in light of their victories, they created their version of the past, the present, and future reality, effectively camouflaging history and reality. In reality, religion destroys spirituality in the same way a lawyer destroys the law. In the same way, lies destroy the truth. This is possible because those who possess wealth and power, they continually invest in institutions that shape our thoughts. They see themselves as deities possessing the power to create people, to create homes, communities in their image with their beliefs ascribing to their perversions. Those who oversee the manipulation of human institutions. They are a mixed group of entities, as Tahuti states, quote, in the form of man they moved among us, but only to sight were they men as are men. Only to the sight were they as are men. Serpent headed when the glamour was lifted, but appearing to man as men among men. Crept they into councils, taking forms that were like our men. Slain by their arts the chiefs of the kingdom, taking their form and ruling over man. Only by magic could they be discovered. Only by sound could their faces be seen. Sought they the kingdom of shadows to destroy man and rule in his place. There are entities in the cosmos who feed off fear, worship, and praise. These entities speak to the human nature, to physical nature, to the physical nature of human beings, keeping them stumbling around in darkness. You can hear them as their voices are best identified as the subliminal murmur in religious propositions which suggest that human beings are subservient, insignificant, narcissistic, isolated, and powerless, and that any other way of thinking is superstitious or superstition, dangerous, sinful, and demonic. They have reduced the origin of life and the universe into a conjugation of deception and lies, cloaked in self serving educational institutions and mainstream religious denominations. Institutions of religion and education teach that God created the earth and human beings about 5,000 years ago. At the same time, evolutionists insist that human beings evolved from animals over millions of years. As a reward for those who perpetuate these doctrines and dogmas, they confer honored titles such as professor, teacher, pope, imam, rabbi, pastor, etc. Earth is theorized to be billions of years old, and based on our perception of time, that seems like a long time. However, the soul is beyond time and space, existing forever, eternally, and beyond. This is supremely expressed in the human soul, as the human soul is the soul of the universe. The universal soul is the human soul, and the human soul is the universal soul. They are one. Tahuti informs us that matter is fluid and flows like a stream, constantly changing from one form to another. Thus, it is not the body that is encoded with the wisdom and knowledge that leads to life in the light. It is the soul, that is the heart mind, the higher consciousness, divine energy. Here in the 21st century, physicists tell us that energy cannot be created out of nothing. It must be obtained from somewhere else. And so they turn to the first law of thermodynamics, which states the total amount of energy in the universe remains constant. More energy cannot be created. Existing energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another. We need to break out the bubble because we deserve so much more. We deserve to know our inner selves because therein lies the origin of our outer selves. Free yourself from the bubble. Do some research. Learn about the Paitan disaster that occurred 11,500 years ago. Because since then, we've been afraid of living on earth. Fear has been ritualized by those who will power and control. It is the impetus behind flood myths, apocalyptic prophecies, and doomsday scenarios. Fear is the voice of spiritual deconstruction. That is, the political and religious dogma and doctrines propagated to conceal and deny the existence of the inward path that leads to revelations of life and higher realms of consciousness. When you look up into the sky, when you look down at the earth, when you look around, when you look outward around you, you're looking at life. Not just human beings, but all around you is the image of the Creator. Therefore, all you see, the entire cosmos, is an immortal living being. Everything, that is, everything is a emanation of primordial energy. It was derived from energy, it is energy, and energy, according to modern science, cannot be destroyed, it cannot die. The homes we have, the clothes we wear, our cars, food we eat, they are all alive. It is energy, and energy, according to modern science, can't be destroyed. They are part of the immortal cosmos, which is manifested in literally millions of forms. Never in the history of the earth and cosmos has anything ever existed that was not alive. Not only is creation an emanation of primordial energy, creation itself exists within primordial energy, which is eternal energy, and as such, it is impossible for it to stop or be destroyed. And so I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to pick up, the review of chapter 7 in our next session. Meanwhile, let me say Dua, Ashe, and Hotep. May you be blessed with supreme intelligence and the ultimate form of peace. Peace be with you. Ashe.